Tell me what will your legacy be? Yeah, yeah. This is the Legacy League. Tell me what will your legacy be? Yeah, yeah.
Welcome to the first postgame show of the season for the summer season in Massachusetts. I didn't even introduce myself in the other one I just did. I'm Joey Zacco. We have Owen Reed and John Shea here for the first one for our Massachusetts League, which took place this past Wednesday night. Guys, thanks for stopping by. We're going to get to you guys in a second. 3 games, 6 teams take the court in Massachusetts for the summer, and we'll start with the closest game, which actually featured some players from our Rhode Island League. So there's other players mixed in, and we'll kind of shout them out because they have some experience, but we're going to let our analysts break down the action here on the post-game show from week 1. We'll kind of pick a team that they, once we do each game, we'll pick a team that stood out to them, and we'll preview quickly week 2, which again is on Wednesday, June 12th, I believe, next week, at 4 Kicks in Norfolk. So the first game we're going to talk about is the closest game from week 1, the Rhode Island Wave and the Reapers. So a bunch of new teams, but like I talked about, the Rhode Island Wave have players who essentially all played this past winter in our Rhode Island League. So despite all of that, they fall by 4, and we need to talk about the Reapers a lot, and then I'll give my perspective because I'm also on that team. But Owen, kind of touching on that really quickly and what you saw in that game as the Reapers, a huge fourth quarter. So, just to kind of set the scene, the Rhode Island Wave never really able to pull away. Cody Crawford, Colin Burns, Jared Hansen was huge, and I'll kind of get the stats up here in a second, which you guys can always see on our website, thelegacyleagues.com. It was always close. The Rhode Island Wave would try to kind of make a little run, hit a 3, get a stop, get a layup. They'd get it to 8, 9, 10, 11, and the Reapers would get a bucket, would make a 3, would get a stop of their own, and they could never break it open, right? That's always the part of the game that you're kind of looking to get it to 15 and 20 and put somebody away. Never happened. We get to the fourth quarter, and like I talked about, a 25-12 fourth quarter advantage for the Reapers. So let's start there and kind of what happened, and I'll tell you what I think really happened. But let's see, Owen, what happened in that fourth quarter that allowed the Reapers, credit to them, to get their first win in the Legacy Leagues.
You see, unlike you, I don't have a biased opinion on this one. The Reapers came out in that fourth quarter, and they came out like they wanted to win, where the Rhode Island Wave, I would say, based off paper, the Wave probably have a more talented team, but the Reapers just wanted it more. They had 14 steals in that game, 7 by their main guy, Kevin Buse, who also scored 42 points. So when your best player gets 7 steals, and they were just hungry for the ball, they kept Rhode Island Wave, they look sloppy, and I think they'll get it together throughout this year, but the Reapers were hungry for their first win, and they totally deserved it.
Yeah, and so you talked about it, and Kevin Buse, 42 points, Jay Sean Edwards, 15, and 7 rebounds for him, really led the way, but 8 threes for Kevin Buse. So, in his first game in the league, that's impressive. 8 for 16, that's a huge part of why they won. I'll go on my rant in a second. John, if you want to touch on Jared Hansen a little bit and just the other side of it, and it's so funny we flipped because I know Owen has seen a lot of these players before, so I love it, and credit to the Reapers, and I will say that a couple more times because I am not as biased as Owen makes me out to be. But, John, the Rhode Island Wave, and even the Reapers a little bit, but Jared Hansen really led the way. I'll go back up on the screen in a second. 19 points, 5 for 6 from 3, and had some big shots, again, during those moments where the Rhode Island Wave kind of looked like the team that people who have followed the league would have expected. So, John, what did you see in this one?
So offensively, I think the Rhode Island Wave were awesome. Reapers wanted more towards the end, but I think what really killed the Rhode Island Wave was turnovers. They had, I think, about 13 turnovers that game, compared to the Reapers, who I think only had, what was that? They had, let's see. Reapers,
7.
They had 7 turnovers,
yep.
So they had double the turnovers of the Reapers, and really it was Jared Hansen keeping them up and keeping them from losing that lead until the end. But for the Reapers, I noticed that the momentum really shifted towards the end. during halftime when I was next to the bench, I could hear them talking about what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and they knew that they had to be way more aggressive on offense, and obviously that showed with Kevin Views with his 42 points and his clutch three-pointers at the end.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the first couple weeks, especially in a new league, but really every season, is you never know who does what, right? So Kevin Views was doing everything. Again, shout out to him. But when it's a new team or a new team that you're playing, even though you're a returning team or have returning players, you're trying to figure out, like, all right, did you make that three? Are you going to make another one? Or is that one like it? And so you're trying to figure out how to guard people. But the Reapers didn't care. They came out, they got turnovers, and this is the part where I'll get in trouble a little bit. But even in the second and third quarter, I think it was noticeable that the Rhode Island Wave, despite being players who have played in this league, haven't played together. And that's not an excuse. We got beat. But it was clear, like just on some of the passes that, Cody on Lob City, so we're going to kind of shout out Rhode Island League a little bit, but Cody and Colin play on the same team in a different league, and a lot of their passes don't, not get to their intended target as much as it did in that game, right? Anthony Lyons, Anthony Ramsey, Jared Hansen, all guys that have never played together. So there was signs of cracks in the armor, is my point, early, and then it just fully got blown open in the fourth quarter. I mean, throwing inbounds passes to the other team, they stole them, right? So throwing it to the other team, again, is where I'll get in trouble. They were stealing inbounds passes that should not have been thrown, so that's not the Reapers' fault. And then they made the Wave pay, attacking the rim, getting baskets in those last couple minutes, finishing the deal, right? Still making some threes. I can picture a corner three that put them up 4, right? In the final minute or two, like that. You still have to hit that shot. So again, shout out to them, and I am excited to see how they kind of carry this momentum into their next game, which we'll get to later. But I can't even use my saying of I'd hate to play the team in the playoffs, but I hate to play us in the playoffs, damn it, once all of these pieces kind of mesh a little more together. But let's move on to a team that was definitely meshing and playing well early. Let's get to the Mob as they take down the Immortals in our first game of the night, 93-63, and that was a team that, we'll go John first on this one. Let's kind of flip the order, but this was a team led by Sebastian Delone, 40 points. He made 6 threes himself, so another player that really stood out in week one. But, again, it's hard on a lower rim in a new league to do that, but this Mob team had 5 players in double figures. Okay, so kind of talking about that cohesiveness, that's what it looked like to me. These guys have done this before. It didn't matter the height of the rim. Kind of, John, what about the Mob, caught your attention from week one?
So with the Mob, I think, of course, offensive weapon, Sebastian Delone. He was absolutely unreal that game. I also believe that they just absolutely killed it on rebounds and making sure that they were getting up to the court fast enough and beating out the Immortals. But I have to give it to the Immortals. They tried, but they had a tough time making their shots. They had plenty of opportunities to. I think they had, they had about 4 shots less taken than the Mob. Mm-hmm. But they just couldn't sink their shots. There was definitely frustration out on the court due to this, and I think that really contributed to them not making their shots, and eventually Mob picking up on that and becoming more aggressive and finishing out with a 30-point lead on at the end of the game. So.
Yeah, and I think, just to kind of shout out the Immortals too. I mean, they're a newer team and a bunch of players again who haven't played together. I know that for a fact because they come from all different places, right? They didn't enter as a team. So Casey Key with 20. David, I'm going to butcher it, so I have to figure out how to say his name, so I apologize. 13 points for him and 10 rebounds. And Kyle Wolf is one of those players that has played in the league before, so in our Rhode Island League, 13 and 6 for him. But you talked about it, right? 5 of 18 from 3. So, hitting threes always helps compared to 11 for 17 for the Mob. Owen, in this one, you've seen, so now we get to kind of, let's use some of your, past experience here with the Mob, and not comparing it to another team because no one's going to know who you're talking about, but just the Mob as a team, what are some of the things that they were doing that you've seen competitive Legacy Leagues teams do, in the past? Like what characteristics do they have already in week 1?
I don't know what the Mob stands for, but it should be men over boys because those dudes are huge. They come out, they play physical, and they dominated this game from start to finish. I would say the only slip-up they had was quarter 2. The Immortals started to get a little hot, but the Mob took care of business, and you could definitely tell that they've played together before.
I love it. I can only hope that's what it stands for. Like, Jesus, that's awesome. We talked about Sebastian DeLone's 40, but Daquan Durham 21 and 9. So anytime you get 20, I like to make sure we shout you out because it's not easy, as a lot of people learn the hard way. It's a low rim. Let's just go mess around. And just like John said, the Mob were locking in on defense once they kind of smelled blood, right? They're like, oh, we can kind of put this away, like I talked about, right? Let's get on that run. Let's build up that lead and end it, before the game is actually even over. So the Mob 1-0, the Immortals 0-1. Our last game was a 9-point game, and we have to talk about the Party Crashers. I love them. Just a bunch of great dudes. One sec. All right, the Party Crashers fall, so we do have to also talk about DTMB. But the Party Crashers fall by 9. They made it interesting. The score is the score, but they were down double digits for most of that game. So just to be fair to DTMB, who are another team that really hasn't played together, but came together, and I'll let these guys speak for it in a second. Looked like they kind of played together a little bit by kind of how they were playing. We'll get to Owen on this one first, but it is DTMB 1-0. They win by 9. And go wherever you'd like. I'll get the stats up here. I mean, Ethan Austin, who played a full season this past winter, led the way with 38 and some highlight plays. But what about them, Owen, as a free agent team, I like to call them, getting the win? What did they do to get that win?
I think they used their one guy, or I'm not sure if anyone else, but I know Ethan Austin, he made a big impact last year in Rhode Island. They really relied heavily on him to, show them the ropes because the Legacy League is unlike any other league. So you really need to, come in with a strategy and figure it out. And I guess you could call him a veteran. They had their veteran lead him the way. And he shot 64%, but it felt like he shot 90. He couldn't miss anything. Unless it was a 3. He couldn't hit those.
I love it. And then, as you can see there, no one else in double figures for GTMB. We'll let John kind of jump in on the Party Crashers in a second. But 55% shooting. They made 5 threes as a team, so I'm sure they'd like to kind of improve that. Rebounding was about even. Turnovers were close. It looks like 12-10, if I'm reading that correctly. So, Terrence Gallows played before, and they had a nice connection. Ethan to Terrence on the lob. Joey Niederberger as well had played this past winter as well. But John, on the Party Crashers, they have played together before. They're a bunch of friends. I know that. And so their jerseys, I'm jealous of the whole thing. How did they kind of hang in it? And did they hang in it? Because I might be kind of even misconstruing that. Because, again, you can see there the fourth quarter was 24-15, right? So that adjusts that final margin. But what did the Party Crashers do that you think they can build on as they try to get that first win?
Yeah, so, of course, I got to shout out Kevin Flynn. I thought he was a fantastic point guard that game. He was facilitating plays. I can't say he did really good on outside shooting threes. I think he had like a 20% three-point percentage. But inside the rim, he was insane. He was making some crazy layups, some crazy passes, and getting assists. He was doing a great job facilitating, but as a team as a whole, first quarter, it was pretty close. I think there was only about 4-point lead from DTMB, but the second quarter, they were getting killed, and that really built the lead. But they did a good job, regaining some balance and pushing back. And as you can see, obviously, as you said before, with the fourth quarter, they came back with 24 points. Not to win, but it was they impressed me the most, I think, that night as a team. So
yeah, well, save it because we're gonna do that. We're gonna do a team that stood out that maybe didn't win or did win, but but that kind of you have high expectations for. So get both of you guys your teams ready. But Kevin Flynn, I didn't even realize, and I've been looking at this stuff for the past 2 days. 35 points in your Legacy Leagues debut is awesome. So shout out to you. Yeah, sure, he would probably trade all of those points for a win, which a lot of people would, but 35 on 16 to 31 shooting, sure, the threes I'm sure will come along. He only took 5, right? It wasn't like he was sinking them, like taking so many and not making them. 13 rebounds as well. So, they're a team that they have some size. They have some kind of guys on the taller side. They have their guards who I think are going to start hitting some shots. I like it. All the teams are like figuring it out, and it's going to set up for a good playoffs. That's for sure. Let's leave it there and let's kind of do some teams that you guys are going to keep your eye on. All right, Owen. Well, now John first. Owen can change his if John takes his. So we'll give Owen the challenge. But John, of the 6 teams, even if you already talked about them, doesn't matter. What team do you expect, or no, which team are you most excited to watch in week 2? So which team is the most fun for you, right? Or you think is going to have the biggest turnaround, whatever. What team stands out to you?
The top 2, I would say, would definitely be, as I said before, Party Crashers. I just really enjoyed watching them play. I thought, they were playing really well on offense, and their comeback towards the end to their eventual loss was, I thought, really fun to watch. I thought, I think they should try to focus on shooting some threes. They tried taking it to the net a bit too many times, but, Kevin Flynn, he was just unstoppable under the net. He found openings, he found cracks, and he made sure to let them know that, he's sinking these. But I would say also the Mob. Just absolute dominant team. They were really fun to watch. And I would say for one team that I was not really impressed with, but I think has great potential, is definitely the Immortals. I think the Immortals are going to do really well later on. This game they're just they're trying to get the pieces together, and I think that once they get that clicked, they're going to do really well. So I'm really excited to watch them play as well.
Hold the reactions we just had for a second. It's funny, the Party Crashers, a lot of new teams come into this league and are like, attack, 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 dunk, 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 right? And you hopefully learn quickly, like, yes, that is still important because you can't just take all threes. It is actually still about making threes. Like, you still have to have that spacing so teams can't just wait for you at the rim. And I'm not saying that's what the Party Crashers did, but I think, like you said, taking more threes for a lot of these teams is going to open up that rim access. I was making a face because Owen has a great opportunity here that, John, you will learn about, that there's always a chance to suck up a little bit, right? When the host is on a team in the league, questions like these are a really good opportunity to pick his team, right? Get a little brownie points. So at the end there, when you were like, there's a team, that I think is going to, stand out, I thought you were saving it for the end. The Rhode Island Wave, that was your chance, and you blew it. Just so you know, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You'll have another chance next week. Owen, you've been here before. You've come through with the halfway crooks. You've delivered. The Wave?
I've delivered. However, the halfway crooks have never delivered a championship.
Thanks.
So, the 2 teams I want to talk about is first the Reapers. Kevin Views, we didn't give him enough credit. He scored 42 points in his first game in the Legacy Leagues. He scored 42, and that is the most. If the season ended today, he's the leading scorer. So I got to give a shout out to him. And they conquered the Rhode Island Wave, which is a pretty good team, but
that's not enough. Just so you know, that's not what I was talking about. Go ahead.
And then one other team that I'm really excited for is DTMB. They got Ethan Austin, who's incredible. And I'm saying it now, bold pick. Come back here, end of the season, come here, late August, this video, this timestamp. Joey Niederberger is going to be your Defensive Player of the Year. 12 boards, 4 blocks, 2 steals, and 3 assists. He's a stat sheet stuffer.
I like it. That's
a
fine.
tongue twister, but
that is no, that's fine. All right, he made up for it. He snuck in a line about the Wave. It's fine. We'll have plenty to talk about the Wave in future weeks, I would expect. So let's just so let's just say people weren't happy after the game, which obviously you're not going to be if you lose. But hey, shout out to the Reapers, man. I like it. Reapers, Mob. I mean, I could name all 6 teams, right? Like we're going to see who kind of continues to battle this out and comes out on top, starting in week 2, where we have the Reapers and the Immortals. So we'll kind of see if one of John's teams can kind of turn it around. Then it's the Wave and DTMB, which that's going to be an awesome game. And, we'll see if DTMB can get to 2-0. The Wave actually go to 0-2. And then Party Crashers and the Mob round it out, right? So kind of some of that athleticism for the Mob. And how does that kind of match up against a team with some size in the Party Crashers? I like it. We did it. Great job. Thanks for watching the post-game show, John. Good job, Owen. We'll see you again. Owen's going to be hosting this thing time and time again, and he will have his chances then as the host to wisely, suck up when I listen and give me something, to enjoy. But no, really good post-game show. Week 1 in the books in Massachusetts.